Hi everybody, Janetka here. I write stories and sometimes people actually publish them. And today I thought I would read my first published prose piece, which happened to be creative nonfiction. Obviously, as my first piece, I was extremely excited for this. It's called A North-South Trending Nested Graben. Now I know that sounds like a mouthful, and it is, but I chose that title because it was how a professor from SDSU decided to describe the geography of San Diego Bay. And so I used that as the title because this whole story is based on a number of incidents that happened to me while I was visiting San Diego and walking my sister's dog around the city, more specifically in the Little Italy area and down by the water. Now, San Diego is thought of by many as to be an ideal place, and they're very good at selling this picture postcard image, and it is a beautiful place, and it does have, quote unquote, perfect weather and draws lots of people there. You have Comic-Con there, you have all sorts of events and everything. But what you also have, which you never hear about, of course, is that they have a huge homelessness problem. And many of those homeless have some severe mental issues and or drug issues. I grew up going to Chicago, experiencing homelessness there, which of course is terrible, but I never felt unsafe. I never felt harassed. While in San Diego, the level of instability in the homeless population there is extremely high. And it's all very sad because honestly the city does very little about it other than push them from one place to another. You walk around, you see all of these giant, beautiful glass buildings being built, which will obviously be very expensive housing. Meanwhile, the streets are littered with people literally living in garbage cans. There was one gentleman I saw when I was there last week in a garbage can yelling about his castle. Everyone come see his castle that he was living in. And it's just extremely sad and depressing. And those people need help. But the point of this story was to try to reconcile for myself in a way, I guess, to work through those two images. The images I had before I visited and the images that I actually encountered. This was back in, this was published back in 2014, and I would later end up living there for 4 years, and so experience all of this on a regular basis. But this was my first real experience with the reality, and it honestly was a bit of a shock. So this piece, like I said, was published back in 2014 by the site Foliate Oak. It was a literary site run by students from the University of Arkansas at Monticello. It unfortunately is no longer publishing. They published from 2008 to 2017. All of those archives, including my piece, can still be found on their site, foliateoak.com. But it looks like their Facebook, Twitter, all of that is just gone. I couldn't find a post explaining why they stopped publishing, but they have. So thank you to the people at Foliate Oak who gave me my first published prose piece, and let's get into it now. This is A North-South Trending Nested Graben by Gregory T. Janetka, as published in the September 2014 edition of Foliate Oak. "I call 'em like I see 'em," Danny says, laughing, after having described one woman at the dog park as having her head up her ass, and another as having a camel hat to go with her camel butt. I laugh too, although I have no idea what a camel hat or butt entails. A retired ex-Navy man now in his late 60s, I met Danny the last time I was in San Diego with my sister. He's offensive, but harmless and hilarious, and remembers me from years before, ready to immediately accept me back into his inner circle. My sister left me with Rummy, her 100-pound cuddly beast of a bulldog, for a week. The morning is cool and he is full of energy. The palm fronds rustle in the breeze and the bell signals a train coming into the station as we make our way over to Little Italy. Out-of-sight saws and jackhammers indicate the city hasn't finished growing yet. Car horns honk. Stopping at the crossing, I look up and watch as a woman steps out onto her balcony several stories up, topless. Realizing where she is, she throws her arms across her chest and runs back inside. A different beeping noise indicates we can cross the street. Weaving our way through the city, we meander into Little Italy. This early on a nondescript Tuesday, the neighborhood is quiet as we turn onto First Street. The lazy morning is shattered as a man staring at the sidewalk begins yelling nonsense. All I can pick out is, "Everything I touch turns to shit," as Rummy barks in disapproval. He doesn't like crazy. Calming him, we turn to see a shabby-looking man walk past wearing several sombreros of varying sizes. He says nothing. We duck inside a local coffee house and I order an espresso. Loud yelling guy has circled back. He is talking to everybody and nobody. The barista holds out a dog treat and in return receives a handful of slobber. I apologize and thank her. I savor the thick black liquid as we make our way down to the water. The air is crisp and clean, the cleanest I've ever encountered in a big city at least. Purple trees line the way. What were they called? Someone told me multiple times, but I still don't remember. I notice a man on the other side of the street swinging a stick around. I stop and squint through the sun to see two older men at a bus stop playing baseball with a cane. I can't tell what they're using for a ball. The one in a white t-shirt looks very serious as he checks the imaginary runner on first before going into his windup and delivering the ball. A swinging strike. The one in a black t-shirt bends down to pick up the ball, revealing the top of his ass. I appear to be the only one taking in the scene. They throw a glance my way, and Rummy and I proceed on. Tourists mill about the boardwalk near the Maritime Museum. The Star of India, a tall ship, sits in harbor. As a child, I'd always wanted to be a pirate, out on the seas, free and happy. God, their lives must have been miserable, I think, and consciously decide to hold on to the romanticized version of history instead. What would it hurt? Everything is so clean in the city, except for when it's not. Then it reeks of urine and human suffering. It's exceptionally clean here by the water. For the tourists, sure, but it's nice nonetheless. I sit on a bench to people watch as Rummy settles in beside me, happy for a break. In the span of a few minutes, I'm offered a ride by two pedicab drivers, both of which I politely refuse. A girl in skin-tight jeans slowly walks past, her arms full of coffee, a large handbag, and her phone, which she isn't looking at. I try not to be too obvious when I look at her, but keep looking anyway. She doesn't seem to be a tourist, isn't even turning her head at the massive historical ships. Maybe she's just like most of my generation and has no care for things unless they're immediate and/or digital. She's beautiful, but I quickly conclude that I could never afford her and let her go, saying goodbye in my head to something else that'll never happen. I throw back the last of the espresso, savoring each drop, toss the cup in the trash, and breathe in the sea air. I rub my face with my hands, hard, and picture what life would be like if I did have money and moved here and met that girl and watched her put on those jeans in the morning and take them off at night and say goodbye to her as she leaves our place to walk to work, passing the ships on her way. Another pedicab pulls up and the fantasy is broken by a white guy with dreads. "No thanks," I say, fingering the last 2 quarters in my pocket. "We prefer to walk." The end. Again, so that was my first ever published prose piece, creative nonfiction. It was called A North-South Trending Nested Graben. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you did enjoy that, great. If not, sorry. But if you did, you can find more of my works and writings on my website, gregorytjanetka.com, which I will put in the comments below. Thank you for your support. Thank you for listening again, and have a great day. Bye.